Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be discussing Chapter 9 of the Scarlet Letter, Escape. And I'm going to be focusing on the character of Arthur Dimmesdale. In Chapter 9, this town is celebrating Election Day because they have a new governor. And part of this celebration involves the sermon that Arthur Dimmesdale has prepared. On page 63, Hester and Pearl are outside the church, but they can hear Dimmesdale speaking inside. And it says, his voice was strong and clear and sweet. Sometimes he spoke quietly, and at other times with great passion. But Hester, who knew the guilt and misery in his heart, could hear in his voice a cry of pain, a cry from the very soul of the man. She listened, unable to move from the scaffold, that place of public shame which she knew so well. As Dimmesdale is leaving the church, the people in his church are awed by his speech. On page 64, it said that he had stood in the church and received the love and respect of all who listened to him. When he finished his sermon, there was a silence inside the meeting house. A minute later, the crowd began to leave the church, all talking at once. How beautifully their good Mr. Dimmesdale spoke, and they said, what a wise and godly man he was. But then keep reading, as it says, there was a sadness too, not in the words themselves, but in the way he spoke of them. A sadness of someone who is about to die. Yes, their priest whom they loved, and who loved them, had the sound of the man who would not be in the world for much longer. If we go back to chapter 8, in which Dimmesdale has a conversation with Chillingsworth, it says on page 57, Chillingsworth said, the people expect great things from you and are afraid that in another year you may be gone. And on 58, Dimmesdale answered, yes, gone to another world. And at this point, we could think that Dimmesdale is talking about his plans to go to England with Hester and Pearl, but gone can have a meaning of death. Because he says, and may God make it a better one, because I don't expect to be with my people for another year. So maybe what Dimmesdale is referring to is his impending death. On page 65, we see that Dimmesdale now looks suddenly weak and pale. Where was the proud man who had marched to church earlier, the man who had spoken with such passion in the meeting house? His face was the face of a man already half dead. At this point, Hester sees Dimmesdale, and he sees her, and he comes to her at the scaffold, and he calls out to their daughter. His face had the look of a man, both sad and joyful, who had finally won a battle inside himself. He's won the battle to finally go public with his sin, finally to confess what he has done. And as we see, he climbs on the platform with Hester and Pearl. He stands there in front of his entire town, the members of his church, finally acknowledging that he was the father of her child. He says on 66, it is God who led me here, and I thank him for it. He continues, God will decide, but he is merciful. Let me do now what God has told me to do. I am a dying man, Hester. Let me accept my shame before I die. At that point, he gives this great speech. People of New England, you who have loved me, look at me now as I stand here with this woman. For 7 long years, you have called her a sinner and hated her. You have seen the scarlet letter on her bosom and across the street to avoid her. But there has been someone living among you whose sin and shame you have not known. He stepped forward away from Hester and the child. God knew him, the devil knew him, and now at the hour of his death, you shall know him. He stands in front of you. And at this point, he's referring to himself. When he says he stands in front of you, he means I am standing in front of you. Look again at Hester's scarlet letter with all its mysterious horror. It's only a shadow of what is on my own bosom. Look, look, see for yourselves. He opens his shirt, and on his chest is a scarlet letter. Cries of horror came from the crowd. For a moment, the priest stood proudly. A man who has won a battle over his own pain and fear. And then he fell to the ground. And on 68, we have his final last words. First, he says to Chillingsworth, may God forgive you. You too have sinned deeply. Then he looks at his family. My little Pearl, will you kiss me now? And she kisses him. And then he says, Hester, goodbye. She whispers, won't we meet again? Won't we meet in heaven and be together forever? And he responds, Hester, Hester, I don't know, but God is merciful. He has proved his mercy. He, God, gave me this burning pain to suffer on my bosom. He sent me that dark, terrible old man to keep the pain always red hot. And that dark and terrible old man was Chillingsworth, of course. He has brought me here to die a death of shame in front of the people. Without all this, I would be lost forever. And here he is referring to his soul, that his soul would be lost. For this, I thank him. I thank God. Goodbye. The final word came with the priest's dying breath. Thank you very much.